Hello and welcome to Have You Got Your Shit Together with me, Caitlin O'Ryan, the podcast that celebrates not having your shit together. On today's episode, I am so thrilled to say that we have the wonderful Andrew Gower. He is an actor and musician hailing from Liverpool. For over the past decade, he's appeared in hit TV shows like Black Mirror, Carnival Row, Outlander, and many more. Alongside his acting work, he is also the frontman and lyricist of the band Gustaffson. In 2022, the band recorded their debut EP, The Jacaranda, which was produced by Elbow's Craig Potter. They've since released 2 live singles, Northern Baby and Champagne Socialist, and they've gone on to perform at some of their favourite UK venues, including the Cavern, the Lexington, and the Liverpool Empire Theatre. Their final gig of the year will be at the 100 Club, London, on Wednesday, the 8th of November, which I believe is today. And what is also today is Andrew's birthday, so if you like the episode, give him a little happy birthday message. If you're in London and you've got the time tonight, go check them out because the band are amazing and their debut album is just around the corner. I'm going to stop talking now. Here's Andy. Do a little soft intro. That's what Louis III does on his.
A soft intro. Starring Andrew Gower.
Got to follow
you have to follow it, yeah.
Hey Andy.
Hello, Caitlin.
Welcome to my house in Walthamstow.
Just down the road
Just
from me.
down the road?
Yeah, we're neighbours.
We are
E17.
indeed.
Stay another day.
Yeah, literally. What I like about Walthamstow, I'll tell you as soon as you've asked, is that I think it feels kind of like Northern England in London. Mm-hmm. That's my theory.
Yes.
Because you've got access to like greenery.
You have.
And stuff like that.
And do you know what I like about the buildings? Like there's beautiful architecture in Walthamstow, but sorry to Stella Cressy, who's our local MP, but the buildings are still a bit dirty.
Yes.
And I do love a dirty building.
It's got a bit of grit.
A little bit of a gritty building.
It's like Milltown.
It's Milltown.
Yeah.
And then you've got the wetlands, but then at the same time you've got an old boozer that hasn't been
not gentrified at all. Like the one on my road is like old man pub singing karaoke on a Saturday.
That one is fantastic. I
singing
walked
for
to
themselves.
That one. Yeah, that is brilliant.
Breaks my heart.
Yeah. And then there's the Yolde Crown. Have you been to that one? The Yolde. That's a nice one.
Where's that?
That's on Hoe Street.
Oh no, I have been there.
Yeah, it's like a theatre.
It's massive.
Yeah, it's massive and it's got like theatre above it and all that stuff.
Have you been to the Walthamstow Trades Hall karaoke?
No.
Oh my god. It's the best fucking karaoke I've been to.
Really?
Ever. Yeah, so it's at the Working Men's Club every other Friday. Honestly, you have to
near
come.
the petrol station.
Although you shouldn't come because like karaoke you have to sing bad, and I think if you sing well then you just ruin it for everyone.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll do my Sinatra. That's
okay. You have to choose a shit song.
Hold back.
Or a rap.
Yeah,
that's the deal.
A rap.
You have to be cringy somehow. It's not gentrified, so you've kind of got like beautiful like the queer community of Walthamstow plus like men who've like grown up and will die here. But like they go to like sing, and like the guy he does like what is it? He puts the songs on, but sits with like a tambourine.
Karaoke king.
Yeah, he sits with a tambourine and like plays along and harmonises with people. It's phenomenal. It's so much joy.
You know, my dad is like the biggest. Actually, my dad and my mum, with their respective partners, are so into karaoke. Karaoke is like it is a cult, isn't it? And like even we've been on holidays in France, Spain with family. And we've been at places that shouldn't have karaoke. But my dad has somehow managed to manipulate...
to make it happen.
A French restaurant owner to allow him to sing My Way. And I tell you something, the French people did not like... in Gabillon, did not like my dad's take of My Way. No.
You can't please everyone on a karaoke.
No, you can't.
That's what I've learned.
And the French...
Yeah, what would your karaoke song be then? A bit of Sinatra?
Summer Wind.
What's that?
Summer Wind, Frank Sinatra. It's a type of whatever.
Sorry, Grandad. My Grandad fucking loves Frank Sinatra.
Yeah. So Summer Wind by Frank Sinatra. Yeah. Classic. Because there's no belting.
Oh, okay.
It's more spoken.
Oh.
And you get to, like, there's nothing worse than a show-off on karaoke.
No, literally not.
There isn't. So karaoke's not for show-offs.
Yeah.
So you hold back, and then you have a little key change at the end. Tiny.
Like the Westlife stand up off the stool.
No one can harmonise. No karaoke king can harmonise with you. So that'll be mine. Summer Wind by Frank Sinatra.
Okay.
Yeah.
Heard it here first.
I'll send it. Yeah, heard it here first. I'll send it you later.
Have you been to the Anchor and Hope as well?
No.
On the canal? Oh my god.
So you have not done
So it's an Irish pub.
What?
And every Wednesday they do like trad Irish music and people bring their instruments.
You should have your own little TripAdvisor.
I know, literally.
Walthamstow,
This is sponsored by Time Out Walthamstow.
Hello, Stella Crescent.
me trying to get that funding for this podcast. Anyway, hi.
Hello.
So, on a
Thank
scale
you
of
for
shit to together. Sorry, we've gone straight in.
Yeah,
You're
you've
welcome.
gone.
Please. On a scale of shit to together, how are you feeling today?
So, I mean, I was debating last night whether it was going to be a 6 or 7. Always a 6 or 7, but I'm going to go for a 7 today.
7. Okay. What made it up 1 point?
The sun I always feel
Yes.
better when the sun shines. I always feel better when there's a slight purpose to the day. Mm-hmm. You are my purpose for the day. Thank you.
You are welcome.
This is my purpose for the day. So it was a 7, and I always like the number 6 or 7 as well. It was like my football number growing up, 6, and then it switched to 7.
Like Beckham.
Like Beckham, yeah. But nowhere near Beckham. I was more Hambeck.
Wow, did you play football then?
Yeah, I played football.
Are you one of those actors who were like, I would have been a footballer if I hadn't?
No, so I'm the opposite. I'm the delusional footballer who literally thought he was good enough but was never good enough.
No.
Yeah, I mean, like I played with some fantastic people who went on to be professional, but I was never scouted and just got to a really like gangly adolescent age where I had a shower one day and my mum used to make like curry after either like a football game on a Saturday or we'd have a roast on a Sunday, and I think it was the curry night on a Saturday, and I remembered the house smelled amazing, and I got out the shower and I just like puffed my cheeks out to my mum and said I'm not good enough, and she just shook her head.
As in, like, accepting that you were...
Yeah, just...
Like,
and then it was literally like... I was 17, which for, clubs are taking people younger and younger now, but... So I was delusional.
Oh, no.
And my mum knew that. But the nice thing is as soon as that happened, like, I stopped playing completely and then just went to play with my mates. Like, and I played
That's
it like...
cute. You just did it for the passion.
Yeah, I played for like my town and my county, which is quite high level and with some great people, but... As soon as I knew I wasn't going to, like...
take the pressure off it.
Yeah,
and do it for the joy of it again.
Which within, I always forever, which I won't do on this podcast, but I'm always drawing comparisons between football and acting because me and my mates, like, compare players to actors.
This is a football podcast,
Have you got your ball together? It's coming home. That was like, I think that was a really like nice but cruel time in my life, realising that. But actually it then like propelled me to find something else that matched the passion of football.
Wow.
Yeah.
God.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
But I was definitely deluded, like 100% deluded.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what town and county did you play for? Where are you from?
So I was born in Liverpool, and then when my mum and dad parted ways, we moved to Warrington. Good old Pete Postlethwaite's Warrington town.
Nice.
So I played for Warrington, and then I played a little bit for Cheshire.
Oh.
Which, so I did all that. But yeah, I was like one of those people on the pitch. I was just like the hard worker. I was like, have you ever seen
dedicated?
Ants, the movie? Yeah. I was like the worker ant, and then there was all the like flying ants and all the So which if I ever have,
you had less pizzazz than the other ants.
I had the other ants had wings. Some were queens and kings. I was a worker ant.
You were a steady pair of feet.
And and I think that. That was what was my point? Yeah, that was my kind of moment where I realised basically I was just a little mere worker ant and probably hadn't. But if I was to ever encourage anybody to do a sport now, if I ever have offspring of my own little ants, I would definitely encourage them to express themselves within sport as well because and I think I'm glad to see a change in sport. It's changed massively. Like, it's not about winning all the time, And I think, you know, that's also a good metaphor for life within being, you know, a footballer, or I'm also an Everton fan, and they teach me how to deal with rejection on a daily basis. So, yeah. So I think it's a nice thing to, like, the best players are the players who express themselves, just like acting. The actors who take risks, and
for sure
in every art, the guitarist who has no fear and plays freely, like he's still playing in his bedroom or whatever, you know. Yeah.
So then you went to acting.
Then I went to acting.
And then you went to music, or were they always kind of in conjunction with each other? So
yeah, that's an interest. That's again a kerfuddled. That's not a word, but kerfuddled journey. I'm going to use it. I was in bands growing up. So after I kind of always sang in my bedroom, and then met a guy who I joined a band with, as a school band. Went on to do some things, toured. We did the Cavern as kids.
Did you?
Yeah. So
that's
before recently, obviously I've done it of late with Gustaffson, but yeah, we did. We gigged all the Northwest, and then I went to drama school after.
Same one as me.
Same one as you. Yeah. OSD and Outlander. Yeah. The two O's. After joining drama school, George Peck, our lovely principal, wasn't too keen on me like touring and playing music.
You were still doing it up until that point?
Yeah, I was still doing it up until that point. And then obviously being in Oxford and not having much money and travel, and Oxford, as you know, to get back to the north, there's always changes, isn't it? So I was a bit like, right, you know, let's take the acting seriously, let's listen to my principal and not be going away at weekends to gig. So I let a few people down, and then that band fizzled.
You were the Robbie Williams.
I was the Robbie Williams without the angels. I was more of a demon to those guys for a while, actually. That band.
Wow.
But I'm still mates with them now.
One of them's forgiven you.
One of them.
Back in the band.
Yeah, one of them's back in. Yeah, exactly.
Judas to the other guys.
Oh, classic. Yeah, I hope they don't listen to this. All those number one hits we could have had. Yeah. And then, it wasn't until, COVID. Yeah. And the film that I was talking to you about before, Running Naked, when I met the Elbow Guys, that I started doing the music again.
Wow.
And that, again, was, after, over a decade of acting in the industry. During COVID, it was like, right, I want to leave have some agency within the industry. I went to a few gigs just before COVID that I was like, do you know what? I think I could potentially, if I got my own band, the dream of having my own band again, I could potentially support people or offer some stories of mine from the past, because I've always written for the last, for when I was at drama school all the way through from when I was 16. I've always
did you continue writing music?
Continued writing music.
Do you play instruments?
I play. I can finger pick on stuff, but no confidence to do it on a stage. That's building.
You're a front man.
I'm a front man. I'm just a front man. I'm the man at the front. So that was like it's like an interesting journey, like being in bands growing up at 15, 16. Yeah. Stopping, dedicating everything to acting, and then getting to in and around COVID, where it was like, do you know what? Like I feel like I have something to say, and whether that would be expressed in a script or whatever, actually having some own agency over a band and what we put out there and the stories I get to tell, similar to you with with your spoken word, is like it's just having something to say and how I wanted to say it. And I think the purest form I could think of was music.
Wow.
And
it's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And it's
really,
like taking off.
It's been, the maddest thing is, since we released the first EP with the Elbow Guys in August last year, we've managed to cram so much into like a year. Yeah. But I think that's, the best things sometimes happen when you don't make any plans at all.
Yeah. And there's like an ease to it sometimes when it just like is like
no expectations. Yeah. Exactly. Sometimes, it's like my Uncle Frankie, God rest him, who, never married, devoted himself to Catholicism and Everton, but he was full of wisdom, and the wisdom he used to tell me was like sometimes the parties that you don't want to go to are the parties you should go to.
Wow.
And I think that expectation sometimes when you like build up, whether it's Christmas or a birthday or a big event, actually the most significant things are the things that you sometimes don't build up, right? And I definitely didn't build up the music.
Yeah.
I just did it.
But I guess it kind of goes back to the thing that you were saying about football in terms of like if actually just doing it because you enjoy it and having no expectations. That might be the reason that it takes off.
Completely. You know? And some like that whole mentality I say to you, like playing football or music like you're still in the rehearsal room or just in your mate's garage. Or playing like you're playing with your best mates at school around the back of the bike sheds or whatever. Like that is sometimes the mentality we forget. We all get to a point as like adults where we think we need to stop playing because that's what adults don't play. But actually, I think we need to find a bit of that magic and hold on to it. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that then.
Okay.
What does having your shit together mean to you?
See, this is a really great question. I've looked forward to answering this. So I'm obsessed actually with the term like bullshitting. Like I feel like in life, as adults, touching on the play thing, we just learn to get better
at bullshitting. Okay.
Like I always think of the bankers in Canary Wharf with their briefcases, which have nothing in but just a pack of tissues for when they cry, because ultimately, like,
is that a thing?
No. That's just what I imagine. I just imagine because ultimately that briefcase is just
what's in it? Not money.
It's just a prop, right? It's a prop to bullshit with. As is the tie. It's a costume.
Yeah.
Because they start that job at 22, 23 out of uni. Mm-hmm. And they must be shit scared because you're going into a JP Morgan, pretending to know what you don't want to get. Nobody wants to get found out. So I think in a sense, like getting your shit together is probably just getting better at bullshitting and learning that sort of line between bullshitting and actually discovering what it is that you can bring. Yeah. So that would be that for me. The term bullshitting and having your shit together is very closely linked for me.
Bullshitting to me makes it seem like you know that you are not capable of it though. Like, do you think part of it is knowing that you don't know everything yet, but like accepting that if you're given the opportunity, that's when you'd be able to learn and like meet the challenge.
Ultimately,
basically.
Right? First day on a set, first day in a music studio, first day in Costa Coffee, or first day at any job. Yeah. Imagine that, any job. That's ultimately what our life is, and that's what a challenge is. When something you face that you don't know, there's an element of you having to get by and learning to bridge that gap and getting better at being like, I don't know what that is. And embracing the fact that you need to ask questions or you need to learn again. But ultimately, in life, I think a lot of people are scared of that midpoint or that vulnerability of that. But actually, if you just understand that in life, everybody is in some way bullshitting, right? We are. Yeah. To get by. Yeah. And actually, that's not to say to bullshit people, right? Because I think that's a horrible, horrible phrase. But it's that element of play that if you hold on to the element of play, that everybody is almost holding a prop and everybody is almost like trying not to be found out, then it can help you in those moments. Because naturally in life, have you got your shit together, there's always going to be good and bad things that happen to us. And there's always going to be challenges. But embracing that as a whole package and holding on to the fact that basically, everybody is learning to bullshit better.
That reminds me of, do you know Julia Cameron?
No.
She wrote The Artist's Way. Do you know The Artist's Way?
No, I don't.
Oh, so it's like this 12-week course. It's a book. And it's basically to help people rediscover their artist. Like, loads of people got into it during lockdown and stuff like that. But she writes really amazing things. But one of the things that she says is that, like, being successful as an artist isn't, like, it's, like, 70% talent, but, like, 30% audacity.
Yes.
And it's like
completely.
having the audacity to like walk into the room and bullshit basically.
Yeah. And it's like my history teacher said to me when I got into drama school, he said, Andrew, I hope you good luck at drama school, I hope you succeed. But then again, who is seed? And he was playing with the word of succeed, like he was playing that, and what I took from it, because he's a very wise man, succeed. I was a bit like succeed. That's a bit.
I hope you suck.
Yeah, hope you succeed. Hope you seed.
Yeah.
But it was playing with the idea that actually success is something that we probably. This is what I took from it. That we put that on other people, as opposed to you don't walk back in your house and go, "Hey, darling," or "Hey, guys, I'm a success today." We do feel failure much more, but I think success is something that we often put on other people, right?
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it's we are as a innate species much more accustomed to learn from our mistakes than our successes.
Yeah.
So I think yeah, you're totally right. That kind of attitude to walk into a room and go, look, I'm gonna survive and get through this, and that element that it's such a like magical energy, like to be like, sugar, I'm being tested as a human here. I've got to get through this. And people can, you have those things of like people feigning illnesses and trying to get out of big events and feeling sick before they're on stage or having anxiety before that. But actually that moment when you go as a human, no, I'm going to do it.
I'm going to meet it.
It's like, still now it gives me goosebumps, waiting in the wings or whatever it is.
I guess because you really have to give in to the idea that, like, especially when you're doing a gig or something, like, you actually don't know. It's all on you.
Yeah.
And you don't know which way it's going to go.
Completely.
Like,
and there is
the unknown is like terrifying.
Yeah, and it's everything's subjective, especially within the arts. So there's such a fine line for failure and a fine line of success.
Yeah.
Have I got my shit together? What does it mean? I think it's that embracing of success, failure, the sort of dealing with that challenge and how we deal with it is probably what I'd pin the dart on.
Yeah.
That would be my bullseye answer.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, before the podcast,
yes,
I asked you to think of an object that makes you feel like you've got your shit together.
My object would be my wardrobe.
Your wardrobe?
Yeah.
Okay.
My wardrobe.
As in, like, the clothes in your wardrobe, or the actual, like, wooden...
The actual physical... Okay. Well, it's a built-in wardrobe, right?
Okay, nice.
It's a built-in
That's
wardrobe.
very grown-up.
See.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, is, like, I spent so long... we talked about it briefly before we started rolling. I spent so long without a wardrobe. And I...
Just like a rail?
Well, no, just with
Clothes
cases under people's... Like, moving from house to house. And I never really unpacked my stuff. I'd have stuff spread at my great uncle's in Brighton or my mum's or bits in my dad's loft, friends' houses, separate suitcases.
Yeah.
I'd never really unpack. But the beauty, when we got this place of moving in, I actually probably spent, I kid you not, like a few minutes of each day just opening and closing the wardrobe of everything being in that one place. So that also sort of includes like cupboards. in that, like cupboards in kitchen, like I've actually got, I don't need to go last minute to the shop and get a can of beans.
Yeah.
Because there's beans bought in bulk. Like beans being bought in bulk. 3 bees. That might be 4 bees. With the Beatles. But yeah, that whole like feeling of just
like grounded
stuff,
something tethering you.
Yeah, tethering. And that's just the thing that really jumped out to me, was the significance for me, I think, after so long of being quite a nomad.
Yeah.
And enjoying that, because there's such a liberation within that, and there's elements of that moving about that I want to explore, but maybe keep the stuff in the wardrobe. But yeah, just having that kind of the opening and closing of that, that's what jumped to my mind. Organisation, I don't know, maybe organisation, or maybe something settled and something pinned down. For a while, I just didn't have that.
Is that because of like work mainly? Do you think like the coming and going, the transientness of it?
Yeah. I think it's work. I think it's I think both my mum and dad would say that when they separated, they both have their respective partners, and myself and my brothers, we had a home for a while as my mum was in, and then she moved with her husband, but we haven't all really had a base, right? I don't like, as much as I love visiting both my parents, like there's not a family base that we've called home, and both my brothers would say that, and I think we become fiercely independent because of that, which is such a blessing from my parents that they've given us, backhandedly, that sort of opportunity to go and like, because some families live around the corner from each other, others always have that home to fall back on, but we have our parents to fall back on and them as people, but we didn't have that physical home. So home for me was, the word was quite interesting, home. And I think obviously, as you understand, moving from the north to London, I never imagined that symbolic. So I guess the wardrobe for me is home, right?
Yeah.
And climb on in there. Climb on in there. I'll be happy. Just put me on a hanger. Put me on a hanger.
I'm done.
Put me on a hanger. I'm done.
Stick a fork in me.
Let me see the wardrobe in every house, in every hotel. Let me just see the wardrobe. That's probably where it comes from.
Wow.
And I think probably my brothers would, if they were sat on the sofas next to us now, they'd probably say exactly the same thing. I think we're lucky in life to have had a home, any of us, especially right now, like with the prices of everything, but to basically, to have, to rediscover that feeling, I think, or to find my own and build a foundation is, wonderful.
But I think also from like having that as like a child, but then like when you move to London and renting, it's so impossible to see yourself anywhere for longer than a year, really.
Completely.
And like you just kind of have to accept that you don't really know what the next year is going to look like, and you're fortunate if they don't put the rent up, and if you get to stay where you are. And even here now, like so much of the furniture isn't mine and stuff like that, and because you're renting,
because you're renting, it's a
being able to put your own personality on a place must be really grounded. Choosing your own wardrobe. Going to IKEA, testing the doors.
Just leave me in the wardrobe aisle. What you're saying is only one wardrobe aisle. There should be multiple wardrobe aisles.
Not enough wardrobe. A wardrobe for every room, please.
Forget the bed aisle. Take me to the wardrobe aisle. The Lion, the Witch, and Andrew Gower in the wardrobe.
A time in your life where you felt like you really had your shit together?
Me organising and sort of manifesting the EP in the studio with the Elbow Guys of late was because it kind of, although they facilitated like the creativity, the whole thing, choir, people we collaborated with, even the guys' lunches, everything sort of fell on me.
Yeah.
And I'd watched producers from shows or from films or theatres that I'd worked with, and I'd sort of felt like I'd seen good stuff and bad stuff, and I tried to maybe bring that into like that month we spent with them in Manchester. I booked like, my own hotels, which obviously, I do want to go on holiday, but like, and hotels of other people, and would walk in Manchester and feel like, I'd made that happen.
That's
and I'd
amazing.
managed to actualise something that was probably a manifestation. Still to this day, I think I've spoken to you before, many of our gigs where I've just said that was probably, creatively one of the best months of my entire life. And I think, that there's not many times in life that I've sort of patted myself on the back, but I sort of was like, well done for doing that.
That must have felt kind of what you were saying before, but to have gone into that at the beginning, bullshitting your way into
completely.
Like,
there we go.
I would have no idea, like, having had no experience of it before, like...
It was a totally different art form.
Pretending to...
Yeah, again, I was like, what do you think about the tempo of this, or the feel of this room? What's the acoustics like in this room? Use the famous room clap.
Yep, I'll take it.
But it's in a sense, it was it was that point where I just turned around and did that thing where I went, you know, when you're in a conversation and somebody goes, have you heard of Nietzsche's, you know, 6th edition of something, and you're amongst people and everybody's like, oh yeah, and so you go along and say, oh, of course, yeah, Nietzsche, yeah, of course, no, I've read his 5th edition, but I actually just turned around and went, do you know what, like, what would you do?
Yeah.
I was lucky I had people around that helped me find the level of bullshit, but basically, asking questions, being open to like collaboration. But it is, it's probably know the same thing, like acting, going into the spoken word scene, and you're learning things, and you're learning, like, you know, how to carve out a path of making art in a different medium, but hopefully drawing from what we've learned in acting.
I've almost found it easier
yeah.
in spoken word, or like even with the podcast, for example, to ask for help, because I'm so aware and comfortable in the fact that I'm like just starting out, and I kind of give myself grace with it. Whereas I think I don't do that so much with acting, because I'm like, I should know what I'm doing, I should this is this, and it can almost like get me into a place of anxiety, because I'm like judging myself for not being where I feel like I ought to be. Whereas like with spoken word, I'm so fine to like, just
that's so good.
Give myself
so
grace
well
with it. Yeah.
So well put. I think that's true, isn't it? It's like the fact we trained in acting, and sort of to our families, our friends, our peers, we are seen as actor. I mean, a lot of people have struggled with just the basic fact of they go, what are you now? Are you an actor or a musician? I'm like, well, like, what is that? Like,
can't go do
both. You know, like, what am I, an astronaut? If you put me on the moon, you know, like, I'm a different person in every different scenario. We're in a world where I think identity, which has come from, I think, the whole selfie generation sort of Instagram post thing, whatever, social media, has really shone a light on like, who am I?
Yes.
But actually, really, I think we need to more worry about is how do we fit into different scenarios, right? I think that's my biggest fear in life is like not understanding how to be in a certain situation, and I'd rather focus my attention on like how I am as a musician than am I a musician. Like, I think identity is,
so
if you say you are something, then that ultimately stops you from learning and being something else, in my opinion. Of course, I think it's important to understand where we're from and maybe what we want to be, but if I could sum myself up in a single phrase, then I'd probably think that would do me down a little bit.
Simplifies everything.
Yeah, simplifies it. Because we don't exist in words, we exist in actions, right? As my nan used to say, like, don't tell me you love me, show me you love me, do it. Like, do the stuff, right? Yeah. So I think as a, you know, a multi-stranded person and maybe performers, like, it's like that thing of just doing it and then seeing what comes from it. Yeah.
But I think it all feeds into each other, actually.
Completely.
Like, you know, you performing on stage in a band, and like the act of writing and the act of like creating something with people who you love and getting to share that with a room of people will directly feed into the way that you act and the confidence that you have going into certain situations and having something else to talk about as well.
Completely,
like,
it is.
Fucking hell,
it's
so boring talking about yourself.
It's so and in a sense, like as you said with acting, there, it's like that there is an element of a points because you've trained in it and because it's a profession, it's become a job, and within that there's an element of people keeping up appearances and the job side of it and the professional development side of it and the whole agent stuff can kind of take away from the artistic form. Sometimes, not all the time. I'd be lying if I said of late that a lot of jobs comes down to sometimes, you know, the promotion side of it and that and the actual beauty of being in front of camera and playing with other actors and being in a theatre and playing. The percentage has maybe weakened of actually getting to do that. So I think maybe starting at the beginning of something else alongside acting, as you say, you can rediscover the joy for acting of
creating.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think it takes the intensity off of acting. Yeah. Like, for me anyway, it makes the need and the want of like work in acting, which you have so little control over, it gives you a lot more of a lightness with it, I think, because it doesn't cost as much. Like, because you know that you're getting that fulfillment of being an artist in whatever form elsewhere, and you're having access to your creativity somewhere else without it being gatekept.
Completely.
Yeah.
And you see I mean, you see when something matters like so much to somebody. It's I always say like the best musicians or the best say footballers again is when you're almost looking down on something. Imagine like you're looking down on a maze, right? And you can see the maze for what it is, and you can see the way out, but then you can see like the journey as well.
Wow.
Whereas actually if you're in the maze, you're sort of in it, and sometimes that can work as a performer, but sometimes being in it, like too in it as an actor and not seeing it for what it is and not seeing why you maybe got into it. You can't play with, you can't really play in that position because you're too in it.
Yeah. Wow.
And the best times as an actor, the best performances I've ever done is that playing, that like being able to like go to an art gallery or on a walk somewhere and you just literally stumble across, like you have that like light bulb moment, you stumble across something for the character or for the project, and you're like bang. But if you're too in it, you know, I've had many a job where it's mattered so much that actually I can't see the wood from the trees, and that inspiration that you can get, and that's what advice I try and give to, if I ever see a mate who's booked a job and they're proper in it, I always try and nudge that bit of advice. Like, I think it's it's hard to do when you're in it. Yeah, it's hard.
You don't know you're in it when you're in it.
You don't know. You don't. When you're walking on your hands for your role, and everybody's like, "Why are you drinking coffee with your feet?" Oh, my character would. Oh, that's when you're in it.
When you're in it.
That's when you're in it. But those moments, I think, are like. Yeah, that's a good thing for your head to play with, and I think maybe having that distraction often helps with you, or another passion helps with you to do that.
Yeah. So when you left drama school, because you've done like TV, film, and theatre.
Theatre.
Yeah. What, like, how do you find the difference of them? Which do you enjoy the most? What do you enjoy for different reasons?
That's a very good question.
Because I try to describe people who don't like necessarily have an understanding of acting.
Yeah.
I'm like, I say that TV and film is kind of like being in a studio if you're in a band.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like great.
That's so well put.
It's great, and you like get to, you know, if you get something wrong, you get to go again, and it's like really creative, etc. But doing theatre is like doing the gig, and it's having the like moment, like core memory moment with like an audience that is never going to happen again, and it's like tangible, and it's like, you know.
And I think I'd say probably most of the actors that I really admire, that's the genesis of everything they're looking for, that kind of and within every take, and even in TV. Like my obsession, I think, really within acting, and maybe this will change, is that theatre for TV, because within that,
what would you say that is?
That, like risk taking, like where something feels really in the moment, but also so like the best theatre is that everything's thought out, right?
Yeah.
So it's been developed. It's like, you know, the likes of Simon McBurney's of the world, who spend 8 years actually manifesting something rather than putting something on to match a moment, and it's just momentary, and it doesn't really have, not that everything needs longevity, but it that universal appeal you get from something being really grounded and thought out, but then within that moment in the theatre or on the screen,
you can let go.
Because it's so grounded, right?
Yeah.
If something's so grounded and so like steeped in truth and nuance, then actually it's just the best place for actors to play, because everybody's singing from the same hymn sheet, the same it's like a Bible for everybody to go off. And there's no surprise why the best stuff, the best theatre, the best film, the best TV there's no surprise why the likes of James Graham, Jack Thorne, Abby Morgan, all these theatre writers who've been so successful and completely like on it with all of their stage plays in many different, you know, scenarios and subjects in the world. They've always found that truth and groundedness, and there's no reason why they've just gone and landed in the TV film world, and why most of their stuff lands and hits again, because it's rooted. And I think that is in answer to your question, the theatre and the TV film world, what I find different is, well, that's a similarity, right? The best stuff is all rooted. The difference, I think you've hit the nail on the head, like the studio and the gig. But I think I came out of drama school, and I don't know whether you did. Like, I came out of drama school only really knowing that theatre world and wanting, like,
that's all I thought I was going to do.
The obsession with Shakespeare, the obsession with language and with touring, the nomadic lifestyle, the suitcase packing, and then to find that my route was TV and film. My fascination for that world actually maybe has not surpassed, but it's definitely matched the theatre, maybe even more, because again, it was the bullshitting. It was like, oh, I've got to learn on the job how this is, and how can I get that truth on camera? And how can I make that truth work within the studio environment that can sometimes feel artificial? How can you get that?
And also with like the less rehearsal time as well.
The less rehearsal time, and there is, it still is that first like day on a set, or even that first time you go and do a big scene with people, that moment, that like flutter and showing the crew, I do love that, because I think we all have our within TV and film, we all kind of go away to our own little rooms and our huts and our dressing rooms or whatever, and we all have like our own imagination, and then we all come in for that rehearsal and show it, and then it's captured in a moment on camera. Whereas in theatre, we kind of exist in a rehearsal room and build it together. So that is, both of those really fascinate me, but I have become more fascinated with the former, the TV and film, just because I didn't know it. And sometimes stuff you don't know. I feel like I know it a bit more now, but it's still like bridging that gap. I'm really fascinated, like theatre for TV. I'm really fascinated by.
Wow.
Like, I think it's like, I like to see people who really risk take physically on screen as well, like physically risk, and with language. I'm obsessed with that. Like, I think language sometimes for TV is like this idea of natural mumbling.
Throwing it away
is bullshit. That is actual bullshit. I hate it. Doesn't exist. Because every moment on screen should matter. Like every moment on stage. So if mumbling's got to be an active choice, it's got to be active. You've got to mumble for a reason. But you don't mumble all the time, because if you mumbled every time, then that would be a terrible way to get what you want, right? So I think like this mumbling generation and throwing away is totally misconstrued within the whole industry. When casting directors or agents say it's not natural, okay, but what is natural, right? Because there's got to be there's got to be an element of like extraordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. Stakes are high. Otherwise, don't put it on TV.
It's like that thing of like, do less or do nothing on screen. Well, actually, like, you're doing for sure. Like,
but the difference
that can be misunderstood as like, don't put energy into it, or don't.
The prep is preparation and research is everything. There's a difference when you're in front of camera to throw it away. But again, there's the, I'm going on a bit of a rant now, but there's this like obsession with identity and authenticity, where actually they take away from the fact of like to be an authentic day-to-day, that actual person can sometimes take away the magic of actually so if you're authentically that, then sometimes you're just bringing day-to-day stuff that actually isn't dramatic for an audience. Whereas actually, if you're not authentically that, again, you're looking at it from away, and you want to bring the real like punchy drama of that moment or that character.
Yeah.
So I think, again, that can kind of interfere with like real dramatic performances on TV that people will remember forever, that are timeless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. In opposition to that then.
Well, that was a
segue.
That was a segue, and we went down a service station there, didn't we? Scotch Corner.
Around the terrace houses of the north. A time in your life where you felt like you definitely didn't have your shit together.
I mean, first thing that comes out is definitely when I moved to London for the first time.
Okay, which was
2010.
Okay.
2010, 2011. God.
Wow.
Yeah. And then for
You're
that,
in London now. How does that feel?
I think I'm getting to that point where I've lived in London, longer than anywhere else.
Yeah.
Well, I am at that point.
Definitely have.
I'm just refusing to address it. We get our London passports.
I know. Oh my god.
God. What is a London passport?
I think
Used to be an Oyster card.
Same dinner instead of tea. But that's already happened to me.
Yeah, tea.
Tea. Where's it gone? R.I.P. tea.
I ask you for a cup of tea now. That's all I get. That's the closest I get to it.
I know, I should have given you a dinner.
You should have.
I should have asked you to specify. The fact that I didn't.
Tea, we should be eating dinner on our laps. On our laps. What would...
Not being shocked by the price of pints anymore. Just accepting that it's like over £7.
I mean...
When I first moved, I was like, what the fuck? Every time, and I'm like, sure.
And I'm pretty sure it's gone up, right? And and it's just this weird, like, casual acceptance in this city that it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas then when mates come, we've had all the northern band coming up in a week or so, and I know every time it's just always about it's always about like just the cost of something.
The cost
and
the pace.
The pace.
The fact that no one smiles.
No.
Yeah.
Nobody smiles.
Don't look at anyone on the tube.
Nobody. Stand on the right, walk on the left.
Wow.
Sounds like politics.
Sounds
like politics. Sounds like politics. We'll get into it. So my thing about a time when I didn't was definitely the first time I moved to London
after drama school.
Yeah, and that was that went on for 4, 5.
It takes a minute to feel like London is your home for sure. Like
it was mad.
Yeah.
Mad and that I was lucky. I came out of drama school and I loved I don't know whether you did, but I loved the naivety that I got from being in the countryside at the Oxford School of Drama. I feel like I always had this dream when I did at 17 when I turned down the football days of living in London.
Going to the Big Smoke.
Going to drama school there when I realised that drama school existed, which I didn't realise until quite late.
Yeah.
And auditioning, I was like, oh yeah, I want to go to RADA, it's on Gower Street,
Yeah.
But actually, Oxford School of Drama, I genuinely think saved my mind.
Really?
Yeah, in a sense of just that naivety. I think naivety in some form.
It's fully immersing yourself in the thing.
And your
which
imagination.
I think could send some people west.
It definitely takes a certain type of person to survive in the middle of the countryside with only the sandwich man to speak to.
I know, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no escape.
No escape.
Yeah.
But I think for sort of, what's George Orwell say? He says, ignorance is strength, right? And I think my ignorance of drama school gave me strength. And then, but that initial adaptation to London was, I just remember it just being like, boom, like it was like, quite a shock to the senses. And and then leaving drama school and being like, I've just got days to fill.
Oh my God, no structure.
No structure.
It's just me, myself and I. Trying to figure out,
And I and I was, because of going to Oxford, I was obsessed with working hard and doing things.
The work rant.
Yeah. Exactly. And it was just that trying to work smart, I guess, apart from working hard, work smart. And that took 4 years to do.
Figure it out.
And within that, there was a shift in friends and people from drama school. Were we friends or were we acquaintances, whatever that is, and like living in each other's pockets. So all of that, was a big adaptation. And then I was lucky enough, alongside that, I guess, to have some structure handed to me with. So I did like the Spotlight Prize thing, which I won coming out of drama school, and then that led to a job and led to a job. And I think there was this sort of like big, like chocolate bar, like double-decker chocolate bar of like merged years of me coming out of drama school, which I guess I wasn't necessarily being true to me, but that's because I was really trying to work out where I fit in London and how to film on a film set and how to exist in the industry, what is important, what isn't important. So that was a moment where I was like, I look back on it and say, definitely didn't have my shit together, 100%.
Yeah.
But me as Andy now, the age I am, I look and go, well, actually, that was a huge learning curve, and those years are, I can kind of look back on and go, well, actually, well done for getting through it, and well done for dealing with it, and well done for bullshitting, and that's what your 20s are there for, right?
Definitely.
That's what they should be there for, and your 30s. Like we're there, like we're never, not to take away the whole concept, but ultimately having our shit together is a very, very personal thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a very personal thing, and we can often put comparisons on other people and see where they're at life and stuff. But I think, to my 20-year-old self, I'd be like, well done, but I definitely didn't have my shit together.
I think coming out of drama school and being because like Oxford was a small city, and I mean, I came from Oldham, and then I went to Oxford, and I was like, wow, this is huge. And then I was like, it was a nice little stepping stone to London, actually, which I think I kind of needed. Yeah. But it was like a fucking shock to the system coming to London. And like, what I really struggled with was the anonymity of it. And like, when I first moved, my ex-boyfriend, so I was living in Tulse Hill, and he was living in like Kingsbury, which was like 70 minutes away.
Wow.
And I was like, if this was Manchester, we'd be breaking up, because this would be a different city and this would be a long distance relationship. Like, this is wild that it's just accepted in London that it's so fucking big.
It is.
And that the people who you are closest to are really far away, and suddenly people aren't available because everyone's grinding to try and afford the city. I found that really difficult. And the anonymity, the like, even though it is quite villagey, like not really knowing anyone and feeling like you could just get lost in the mass of people. It's terrifying.
Proper overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
And I think, you're so true, like pockets of London and like just that thing when you first move to London, right? You first leave drama school and you're literally just, like, I didn't know.
Shut out.
I didn't, you are shut out. You are. Literally. And I'm like, I didn't know agents and stuff before drama school. I didn't know all the industry stuff. Yeah. But add into that then not knowing, like, actually, where do you want to live in London? What is Palmer's Green, or what is,
because obviously, like, in your final term of Oxford, I think it was the same for you, you have to move to London. And
did you go to Pimlico?
Yeah, to do the classes.
Yeah,
so you had 2 weeks, we had 2 weeks to find somewhere to live, and I was one of two people in my year who didn't have connections to London already, so there was only two of us who were looking for somewhere to live. So I was like, well, I've been to London once in my life, like, I'll use that as a reference. 2 weeks to find somewhere to live. I was like, okay, well, I know Oxford Circus, I'll look at Oxford Circus, like, for somewhere to live, and I was like, why is it so expensive? Like, I didn't know anywhere else, and no one had fucking told me. So I was trying to find a fucking flat in Oxford Circus, and I was like, why is it like £4,000 a month?
You just went through the Monopoly board.
And then I like contacted a place because it said that it was like 1,700, so I contacted them, and then they were like, no, that's a room. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna need to move further out. I just had I was so ignorant.
Yeah, they understand, and like that basic thing of like, where do you actually want to
set a life
up? Yeah. And then, as you say, all those people who you've like been living with or with at school every day, like they're all spread out over London, and that thing of like all travelling on the tube to Pimlico, it really was. And
Pimlico's weird because it's like got no vibes at all.
No, Pimlico's
ghost town.
Yeah, Pimlico's like empty houses, right?
Yeah, MP's second homes and stuff like that.
People's second homes.
Yeah.
Yeah, very strange time. And to anybody, you know, as you say, moving to London who hasn't been there, I'm pretty sure now it's probably, you know, not gotten any easier.
No,
you know, it hasn't gotten any easier.
I always think it's just about like finding community, isn't it? And I think for me, like open mic nights, like spoken word stuff,
Completely.
like going somewhere where you can kind of get to see the same faces,
Totally.
or like volunteering if you have the time to do that, or
Find your tribe. I would say it's about finding your tribe.
Like getting a job in like a cafe, which is what I did when I moved here, like to just try and get to know people to make you feel grounded, because otherwise you just feel lost, I think.
Exactly. And also just asking them, right?
Yeah.
Asking people recommendations. It's like when I go to a city that I haven't been to, I want to ask the people who live in the city who've been there and learned from their wisdom of where to go, not to, you know, dare I say, in those first 4 or 5 years, I think I was at a Starbucks in Green Park, like every day, reading work, like just really unhealthy habits of London. Like literally, there was a Starbucks right at the end of Green Park, right? I always had this thing like I was reading every day, probably too much. George Peck, you know,
toxic productivity.
Completely. But if anybody needed to find me, they would know exactly where I'd be. I'd be in the Green Park. It's shut down now. It's closed down. I think it's like a carpet shop in Green Park, like a really posh rug shop. I was in there like nearly every day. Like my heat map.
Is there a blue plaque there?
Oh God! Yeah. Blue black. Don't come back.
We've told you once already.
You can't have one coffee for 12 hours.
Okay, 3 things that make you feel like shit.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
What? So injustice.
Yes.
As a whole, like injustice.
Big and small.
Yeah. Big and small injustice. But the word injustice just makes me I got a rather random one, which I'll dig into. Crisps at buffets.
Crisps at buffets.
Open crisps make me
going stale.
Well, just
or the hand
digger.
Oh my God!
Honestly, it's like one of my biggest.
Was that pre-COVID as well? Just like
that was pre-COVID. That's like being
nuts on a bar.
Nuts on a bar. Like, you know when somebody's being really nice, right? They open the crisp packet on the table.
You're livid.
I think I once had to eat crisps for a part that had been opened on the table.
Shit.
And I really struggled. I don't know. It's my middle brother was obsessed with crisps growing up.
Okay.
And he used to put them in my face and stuff. And I think I was like triggered. But that was a sort of more of a sort of frivolous one, but ultimately, you know, still makes me feel like if I go to a party and there's a buffet, and if somebody's like, we make food, and they see that I haven't eaten the food, Andy, go.
Yeah, please.
I'm just like, ooh,
we'll be upset if you don't.
Buffet food gets me. Mm-hmm. If it's my own buffet, fine.
You know where those crisps have been.
I know where they've been. I know they're not multi-pack. I was at a wedding the other day, and last week, friend's wedding, and bless them, they did like at the end of the night, like when people get really hungry, they did like crisp sandwiches, but they were like spread out, and they were all like spread out.
Cute.
That's very nice, right? Yeah. But you can imagine me and somebody, just a random who we'd met there, kept like saying, "You haven't had your crisps." You haven't had your crisp sandwich.
Oh.
And I was like,
what's wrong, Colin? You've not had your crisp sandwich?
Anyway, so that was a
even if it's like a bougie crisp, like
I mean
Sensations.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
not for me.
No. Yeah. A crisps advert would be out definitely.
Wow. Walkers, you're cancelled.
Walkers, Gary Lineker, don't worry, mate. Don't worry, Gary. I'm not after your job. That's always made me feel a bit shit. But the injustice one makes me feel shitter than that.
For sure.
But that was a frivolous one. And then the other one was like, and this might sound bad, right? But like like I hate the drumming of like mediocrity, right? I hate like
mediocre drumming.
Yeah, like no, it's in like mediocre drumming.
Keep up your tempo, guys.
Come on, I'm on about my drummer from the band. He's Graham Bennett. I'm sorry, no, I'm joking. No, like I think sometimes as a nation, or as a maybe sometimes an industry, people are quite more comfortable in to promote something that is sort of safe promotion.
Yeah.
Rather than separate, as opposed to like those risk takers, right? Or people starting out fresh and who have something to say. And I guess that's such a broad subject, and it's not me sort of. But I've just noticed quite a lot of that, right? The safe option and the sort of thing that just doesn't really try out something new, right? Where people say, well, we're looking for that show that was really successful in America, whereas actually some really original person has come up with something so new. Yeah, maybe it might need guiding towards a form that, but actually like
just recreating something that's already succeeded.
And that recreation and that sort of promotion of something that's straight down the line and what I would call mediocre. Because almost it's an imitation, right?
Yeah.
And all imitation can predominantly be just fall in the middle.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my third point, which is a I'm glad you've helped me articulate it there, because I actually just put the promotion of mediocrity, which actually could offend a lot of people. But it is that safe, because I just think we've touched on it so many times. Like, we're so lucky to be able to like have so many people out there right now taking risks, and like to a lot of people, you know, to say that they want to be an actor or a musician or a poet or whatever, or a writer, there should always be an element of risk.
I think as well, like, it's a social media thing, but it feels like people are scared to like put their heads over the parapets, and like in all kinds of things, like whether that's political or whether that's like with work and art and stuff like that. Like, I think people are risk averse because so quickly you can be torn down. You can in like social media or like on those platforms, because everyone has an opinion now.
Completely.
And it's hard to stay true to your integrity, I think, because people want to stay. It's like herd mentality, right? Like, if you stay in it, then you're safe.
Yeah, that's
if you divert from that, then it's like
sheep. The sheep sort of thing. Yeah. And I agree with you. I think within that, as a humanity, I think we've got to be maybe more open to allow people to make mistakes and apologize for them. Because I think people can make mistakes. Yeah. But the most beautiful thing is as humans that we have learned probably from religion in that aspect was when as a humanity we learned the understanding of what forgiveness is. Like, forgiveness is probably the biggest thing that religion has given anybody, whatever religion it is. That's like ingrained in. That was like why Christianity back in the day was like Apple, basically. It's like an invention that forgiveness exists, because with forgiveness comes the fact that people can make mistakes. When you take a risk, you can make a mistake. And obviously we can't just go out and be like making mistakes left, right and centre and being like, well, I'm sorry about what I said. But it's that thing that we need to keep teaching people is to, first of all, accountability for mistakes, but also just keep, especially within art, like, take risks. Yeah. Take risks.
Which is kind of like why cancel culture is kind of terrifying, because it, like, ultimately if people, like, take risks and make mistakes, or, obviously if they do something wrong, then people need to be held accountable. But, like, ultimately I think we all want to live in a society where people can be brought back into the community and
there's no bigger wisdom, right?
Exactly.
You don't get bigger wisdom. Yeah. Somebody who's been on the outside of society and has gone from the middle to the outside. Yeah. Like, there's no surprise why we read folklores that have been written, history repeating itself years and years ago, fairy tales of people who've been banished from Walthamstow, and then brought back in, and then all of a sudden they're the elder of the community, or the wisdom comes from them. It's fascinating that we think that they can't come back in.
People should just disappear.
They should just disappear.
That's wild.
Yeah, but that is, unfortunately, that is technology, isn't it? That people should disappear.
Yeah.
Hey, Ant.
Hey.
You do a great job in editing this podcast, might I say. If people like the podcast, what do they need to do?
Like it.
What else?
Follow it on social media.
And then what?
They could share it with every single person they know.
Thanks, Ant. You can go back to your corner now.
Bye.
Okay, 3 things that make you feel like the shit.
I would say... I'll start frivolous.
Okay.
Not frivolous, because it's not frivolous. When Everton win.
Okay.
Honestly.
Yeah.
It can really... But when Everton lose, sometimes it's good as well. So within that.
Okay.
Because
you learn
if I can have a really good day when Everton lose...
Okay.
Then that means it's been a really bloody good day, right? But when Everton win, I just love it. I don't know. Though it's underdog team, we fail, we're under investigation for a load of things, money, crap, and just really battling relegation for the past 3 years. But when we win, it's such a rarity. And it's so, anyway, so that's the total frivolous, the last football chat I'll mention.
No.
The other one would be, and I don't know whether you get this, is when you're when you've learnt your lines for a play or a TV, and then you finally get to play
and not have to think about it, not have the fear of remembering the line,
and not have the fear of remembering them, and that moment of really sounds quite wanky, should I say, but when you really get to
it's just in there.
Yeah, and you get to look in someone's eyes, and it's in there, and it's in there, and then that middle bit is a tennis court where you're just firing balls at each other, and it's because also a lot of people, who aren't actors, who aren't in the profession, always the big obsession for them is what's it like to learn? How do you remember all those lines? That question, how do you remember to learn all those lines? And I think maybe I was thinking about that beforehand, people who listen who aren't actors, sometimes we say stuff as actors to each other that is shorthand.
Yes.
But actually, I think that understanding of what's it like to learn lines is when you get to that point of you can play.
Yeah.
And exist and think maybe as somebody else, and the writing's really good. I think there's honestly those moments. Yeah. I really like that.
That is just being present.
Present.
Yeah.
Present. Yeah. And also, I think, I don't know about you, I kind of maybe got into acting because to think like somebody else, genuinely to that, obviously that's escapism, right?
Yeah. But also psychology, isn't it? Psychology. Understanding
human and real empathy and that true escapism I got from maybe playing football that was replaced then being on stage.
Yeah.
And therefore that moment where you can be quite overwhelmed by lines and by...
And cerebral.
Exactly. Is it in the head or is it is it connected to the intention and the heart and the feeling and almost working in line with a genius writer, they've set the map out for you and you're finally connected. And it's like a real synergy, that moment. And it can be really underwhelming if you realise, oh shit, there's big gaping holes here. but the best writing is when you're oh my god, it just gets better and better. Yeah. So that is the shit. And also there's that ongoing fear for every performer, whatever you're on, is that you don't know them and you won't know them and we're gonna fail. But those moments where it's all in and you can just go and play is fantastic.
I was saying this morning that I have a recurring nightmare.
What is that?
So Showcase at drama school is in your 3rd year, and it's where you are basically put in front of agents and casting directors. You obviously know this, I'm saying this for the people who are listening who don't know this. But you have to do a monologue and a duologue, and it's kind of the thing that drama school has been leading up to in order to get someone to think that you're good enough and to take you on.
You're taking me back.
Yeah. But my reoccurring nightmare is that I'm on that stage at the Soho.
The same stage?
The same stage at the Soho, doing the same monologue and the duologue, but it's been,
almost like 10 years now since I did it. No, maybe a bit less, 7 years. So I have to do the same monologue and the same duologue. So it's kind of there, but it's not. And I'm like having to like, the spotlight is on me and I'm having to do it and I'm having to find my fucking way through it.
Oh my.
That is like, I get that like once a month. I don't know what that must be some kind of stress dream.
That is.
So not knowing your lines is like...
taking you back to like a real, yeah. I did that, that 1984 on the West End thing. So there was a scene where I had to like wake up in bed. Like I've had a nightmare. I had these curtains in my old Clapham place that had like quite a lot of street lamps in.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'd sleep with the curtains open. Apologies to my Clapham neighbours. And sometimes I'd have them like half shut.
Yeah.
Never kind of fully shut. I don't think they worked as much. Terrible wardrobe as well. But I would wake up whilst that ended up getting extended, that show. So it became like, similar to you, I had this recurring nightmare where I'd wake up in that bed. But I kid you not, there were nights when my housemate came up and he like sort of like broke me out of this dream. I couldn't distinguish being on stage or being in bed.
Oh my God.
So like replace these lights, and then it started going. Then it started going to like on stage, and sometimes things I was in bed.
No.
Like
where does the acting end and the human begin?
That's. I mean, I had a big ass holiday after that job. That was. That, wow. But that moment sticks with me because sometimes I think, and you're like, I should know the lines.
Yeah.
Why don't I know the lines? What bit are we up to?
Yeah.
In the
hell.
Who
am I?
Where am I?
Oh my God.
Touching it again, I had moments where like I've probably dreamed for a while since I was 15, 16 of like being in a room not only with a guitarist, because I don't play too well, a pianist, a drummer, a bass player. Being in there and like being in there with like the idea of and the reality now with my band of being in there with people who are all making music is
that's so amazing.
Like I've actually dreamt of that, to be back in that environment where you're like saying to a bassist like, you know, here's a subject about this, how does that make you play, and then saying that to the drummer, and then, you know, 5 guys or girls bringing stuff together and that is the shit for me.
I guess in that, like, because, I mean, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but because, like, you're writing the music and stuff like that, but you don't necessarily have the skills to play the instruments, like, being with people who understand you and, like, know the language and, like, the concept that you're trying to get across must be fucking amazing to be able to pass it over to them and just be understood.
Yeah. And even sometimes when they don't understand, like, in that specific rehearsal, but then maybe they go away and that sticks with it. Like that just whole like real collaboration.
Yeah.
And like I'm always just fascinated with again the cerebral and like the heart, like connecting, but like especially for musicians when they play, I always like watch the proms and see like a violinist or somebody play the cello or piano, whatever instrument it is, and how much of that, like what sets them apart from just playing, like, and it is like
emotion,
and like being able to like channel that into an instrument. I'm really fascinated by that because I feel like somebody can be technically amazing, similar with acting, like you can have the best voice,
or singing, you
can have the best voice, you can have the best posture, you know, you can do a really good silverback gorilla in animal studies, but really what makes that subjectively jump out to an audience, and it often is their connection to so it's like playing with a band and trying to like in some way work with that. And not from I'm not a trained musician myself. That's like feels always great every time I come home, like from gigging up north or practicing up north or wherever we are with the band. I always feel like, you know, like invigorated artistically as a whole. So so that's definitely been the shit of late.
That's cool. Okay, something that makes you lose your shit in a positive and a negative way.
Ooh. Being told no, because if you're told no, right? It's sad. It's really sad. Being rejected is sad, but also in positively, it makes me want to prove them wrong.
Okay, so it's a double.
So it's everything really. Being told no. I think my life is probably being shaped by the no's way more than the yeses. So
Wow.
so being told no for me is both good and bad,
Okay.
because also no can often carve your path, right?
Wow, yeah.
Whereas sometimes people say yes but don't actually do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes people say yes and you, all those PI, I always find it unfortunate when you meet somebody maybe who's been told yes way too many times, and all they need to do is be told no and book their own EasyJet flight, right? That's, those people who are having things done for them and everything's great,
Yeah.
when sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
I worry for.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, like, when you get told no,
Yeah.
same with, just mentioned Everton.
Yeah.
This will be the last time. When
We are on a football podcast, after
football
all.
podcast. Have you got your ball together? But those moments of rejection, right, and losing and failure. But the no, specifically, no, sorry, we can't do that.
Yeah.
Or no, you didn't get the job. Or
Yeah.
no, I don't love you. Whatever it is.
Yeah. That's when
Actually,
you have
is
to...
there's a positive in that.
Definitely.
There is.
There's growth.
There's growth.
Yeah.
There's growth. There's like, okay, well, that's not the avenue for me. And also, like, yeah, I mean, I can picture some of the, like, those jobs you're in for, and you're in the room and you think, it was a no, but I was so close, but that it just, you learn, like, the thin line between, again, success and failure, or yes and no. And I think it's just, it's just it can be
a really energising force.
Really energising.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Get told no on a bad day,
Sucks.
it's crippling. It's crippling. There's been days you get told no on a bad day, or you get several no's from all forms of your life.
God, yeah.
It can
Knock you
completely, of course. But those no's on a day where you're like, it sucks, but also I can use whatever that is, whatever that energy is.
But also it's that, like, cliche as well, as, like, as actors or as creatives, like, the one power that you actually have is to say no.
To say no.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there we go. So
no is for you as well.
Yeah, that's so true. The
Know
biggest
your
power.
no.
Yeah, you know
Yeah.
your no. Yeah.
Yeah.
No as a human, right?
Yeah.
As a human, in every form. Like know your no. Yeah. And that's
And
the two. That's your two no's as well. So we could use the K no and the N no. Yeah.
Receive and give the
Receive
no's.
and give the no's.
Yeah.
No more.
I know my answer. It's a no. There we go. A moment that you found some shit out about yourself.
The first thing that probably comes to mind was when the world stopped.
Okay.
COVID.
Yeah.
When the world stopped. Things
2020.
stopped. 2020, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was the biggest time where, and I feel like a lot of people still haven't dealt with, or it's in their subconscious, or still going through it and coming to terms with that moment when humanity, for what was the very first time when people were just like, we're stopping.
Yeah.
And we were all tuning into the news. And just that moment, I am, as I alluded to, with a creature of habit and learning with just keeping going and
Productive.
Productive and being a grafter and I like to do things, and I like to
move forward.
keep busy and move forward. Just for that moment, I just stopped completely and stopped thinking about potentially, like, achieving, and especially within acting and stuff and the arts, like achieving and feeling guilty, like my Catholic guilt coming out when I don't when I don't do something with my day, or I'm in bed. And then also just reflecting, right? And reflecting on maybe what I've done, which I'm bad at, because I feel like it's indulgent when you reflect sometimes. I don't know, I just have that inbuilt. I don't think it is. I actually encourage people to reflect, but myself, when I do it, I find it quite indulgent. So that moving ahead, but actually, that was a moment in my life where I was just like, right, let's
face myself.
let's just, and I was so present. It was so present.
Yeah.
Wonderfully present with family, and everybody was.
There
And
was
also,
something, obviously it was horrendous, but there was something beautiful in some of the intimacies with people,
Yeah.
even though it was like through Zoom or...
Completely.
Yeah.
and there was an excitement. There was an initial excitement
Yeah.
because we were all level.
That's it. It was a levelizer, wasn't
A
it?
levelizer. And the saddest thing about that is now I think is because then that then moved on to different stages of COVID, and then what happened politically and what happened with people taking advantage of those situations, whether it was, you know, production companies or people making PPE or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like that maybe took away some of that real magic at that initial levelizer and maybe leaves a lot of people, rightly so, with a bad taste in their mouth because, you know, that whole thing of like 2 years of my life was wasted and people saying, well, I'm 30 odd now and maybe I should get those 2 years back. But actually that initial thing for me was something quite magic where I just stopped. And then obviously, you know, I probably still am dealing with the fallout of then that 2 years after where you feel like you should be doing more or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think we'll probably still be dealing with it for generations because it really did feel like, you know, like when a machine just shuts down.
Yeah.
Felt like there was somebody just pressed
it with the world. Like, I mean, the weather was like weirdly beautiful.
Yeah.
And like no planes in the sky and like nature, you could hear nature again. You could kind of hear your own thoughts again. Like, I think there was like a stillness that people had been craving, and I think it made people realise how we've just been like churning on in this like capitalistic society of like
completely.
productivity and all that stuff, and then actually being made to stop and like read and like, I don't know, connect with people
connect
again
with
over
like
Zoom
coming
and,
coming together, proper coming together, probably in a, obviously over Zoom was strange, but that real determination to connect as with people,
and like art being so important because it was a thing that was like taking us out of the mundane.
There's a sad part of it out now because I feel like because then it did go on and people became frustrated, I feel like the essence of that has been forgotten, and maybe because we wanted to get that machine going and by pressing the button
again. And I feel like
again,
we're overcompensating.
We are.
It feels like it's gone. I think there was a sense of hope anyway. Like, you know, I feel like I need to caveat by saying like obviously it was horrendous for so many people, and like people stuck in flats who had no access to like outside and stuff like that. But I felt it anyway that like actually something can change, like this life that we're all living, which is like terrible for the environment and like
completely
terrifying for young people. But it actually feels like now is the moment that we can reassess and know that something else can happen, and yet I feel like it's gone back into it, but like even worse.
Unfortunately, exactly. I totally, and I feel like unfortunately what we crave for in the world is for leaders, right? By example, and there were so many who did, you know, but unfortunately the ones that we see day to day within the media have maybe created something that, as you say, it's just, that moment of real, like, clarity of thought that the world probably had.
Like space.
Space. Like, I always imagine, like, those really, like, you know, big red buttons on a machine that is constantly just on, like a generator that's just making this, like, sound. Like, if you were to just turn one of them off and it just stopped, but then it's been put back on, but louder. It's back on louder. So, as you say, that initial moment was full of so much tragedy and so many people who had horrible journeys and time during COVID. But in a sense, we were always a human sort of species thinking of the same thing and sort of caring about the same thing, talking properly about it.
Do you feel like you were able to kind of sit with yourself then? You say it's like the time that you found some shit out about yourself, so it's like...
So about me, I think again, because you look back and you look forward and you look now, spent a lot of time in the now, and spending a lot of time in the now made me probably think about what I want to do, what I want to do differently and how I want to do it. So that was a really good point for me.
Like a checkpoint.
A checkpoint, you know, discovered a lot of things and enjoyed my wardrobe and, you know, and all of that stuff. And, you know, decided even more so about writing and again, sounds wanky, but maybe potentially just leaving something of my own voice. And, and I guess that's probably what a lot of people sought in that moment was like, I need to do something big with my life now because the world could end, you know. But I don't think it had as much gravity as that. It was more like, okay, Andy, where am I?
Yeah.
You're stopped. The hamster wheel stopped.
Yeah. Reassess things. Yeah.
Go and have a drink from the water dispenser in my hamster wheel cage, and see how that feels. It's not all about the exercise.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, shittest piece of advice you've received.
Ooh, shittest piece of advice I have received. What was one for me? I mean, it wasn't advice. It was more a voice tutor saying I'd never play Romeo with my accent. I couldn't get away from that, but there's definitely some shitter advice. I mean, the one thing I always used to get told is don't blow your own trumpet, let other people blow it for you, which was given to me by my dad, who is a very good trumpet player.
Okay.
Like in life, blows his own trumpet.
Not literal.
Not
He
literal.
doesn't actually play the trumpet.
No, he doesn't. But he said, don't. But that always, he used to say that to me all the time.
Okay.
Son,
so
don't
like
blow your
being
own trumpet.
humble.
Let other people blow it for you.
Yeah.
And I do stand by that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like word of mouth is huge in a sense of like if your name's coming up in a room in a positive way, and that word of mouth is rather wonderful.
Yeah.
But I feel like, in a sense, like that made me feel like sometimes enjoying my successes is a bit indulgent.
Yes.
So that, in a sense, sometimes I'm a bit like, well, you know what? Like, I can enjoy the moment of getting that job on that day, or even for a week, or I can enjoy that meal, and it doesn't have to then stop. The holiday doesn't have to stop when I get home. Like these like set things, like being able to properly like experience as a human. Sometimes I think that comment maybe stuck with me for longer.
Yeah, I think that was like perpetuated at our drama school as well. That like I think they really didn't want actors to leave with an ego, which I understand.
Yeah.
But there was also an element of like people coming out with not that much confidence.
Completely.
And actually, like we were saying before, like half of it is the audacity to be able to walk into a room and like bullshit your way into looking that like you know what you're doing and that they want to trust you with it. I think if you come out sometimes too humble, then people are kind of like, yeah, you're good, but like, do I trust you with this opportunity?
Completely. And 9 out of 10 people are kind of up for following like a leader, and 1 in 10 people will come into a room and become that leader. I'm not saying that you should go into every room trying to lead, but ultimately
I'm actually going to direct this.
Exactly. Do you know, I came in to play Spear Holder number 4, but actually I think I might write the music, direct, and not hold a spear. But I feel you're right. It's like, you know, I always used to say I'm not very good at self-promotion, I'm better at self-demotion.
Yes.
Like, I'm better at demoting my things, because then I feel like, I won't talk about that, because then if they discover it, like, I come across as, it's actually
arrogant.
a bit, exactly.
Such a fear of arrogance.
Arrogance, terrified of arrogance.
There's a difference between arrogance and confidence.
There
right?
is, yeah. And even I think the word ego is a bit misconstrued. Like, a wordsmith friend of mine, can't forgotten his name, terrible, was talking to me about ego and how, like, in generations gone by and even in different countries, like, ego is actually the word is kind of misconstrued in our language and the way the connotations it has. Because actually I think to have a bit of an ego gives you, like, an inner confidence to believe in, and I think ego is often more like conviction of thought sometimes than actually like a big head.
Yeah.
I think it's just like having conviction in your thoughts and in your words, and how that goes into. So ego used in the right way can create opportunity for others, for yourself. So I'd probably go back to that the trumpet blowing and just say, you know, I think it was a great advice, but I think probably it stuck with me so much that it maybe started.
I guess it's like anything, like it's okay to give it a toot from time to time, but no one wants to hear your version of Wonderwall on it.
No, unless you're
read the room.
Unless you're John Coltrane on the trumpet, that's fine. But yeah, you're so right. Don't play Wonderwall on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. Gauge it.
People want to hear your trumpet playing.
And also, like, isn't there a joy in blowing the trumpet if it involves 10 other people or your peers, in a sense, like blowing everyone's trumpet?
Yeah,
right?
in harmony with the
in harmony. Get your sax out, come on. Get your sax out.
Yeah, love that. Okay, shit you wish you'd known sooner.
Shit I wish I'd known sooner. I wish I'd known you were this close to the neighbour sooner. God, that would have been nice. I always said, again, I'll give you a frivolous one, but then I'll give you a real one. A real one. Frivolous one. I mean, I wish I'd known that Hackney was going to be so expensive to live in, and I got my parents to have bought a Hackney house in the 80s.
Yeah.
I wish, on a real note, I wish I'd been, like, told to... I think like my grandparents in this specifically, and my nan's siblings. I wish like I'd been told to embrace like everything that comes with family and where I'm from and stories and living in Warrington, which I didn't necessarily always enjoy. Like, I wish I'd been told, I guess, to really live in that moment of both good, bad, and value it more. Like, you know. I remember, I was one of my exes. I was very enamoured by, I guess, and very aware at drama school of class. Mm-hmm. And there was definitely a moment, which probably one of the least proud moments of my life, where like, I guess I was probably trying so hard to scarf wear and impress this person and speak differently. Yeah. That it really, I came to loggerheads with like where I'm from and family within that, and there, it was a specific moment which I regret doing with a family photo and sort of hiding things and trying to recreate things, and I was just like I would just say to my younger self, like, those stories and that is everything, and that's pride. That's pride, yeah, exactly. But I think we are still like one of the biggest things I speak out of. No matter what comes down with identity and race and sexuality and gender, class is within it all. Within it all. Class for me is just at the root of, I think, this country. Class is the problem. Yeah, 100%. And that really hit me when when we talked about leaving drama school and stuff. Yeah. And I think that thing of like, I'd say to myself, the good, the bad, and the ugly is what makes me. Definitely. And to enjoy it and be proud of it. Oh my God. And toot the trumpet about it. Yeah. Because actually, there's something really refreshing of going amongst a group of people all from different classes and just being 100% authentically you. Yeah. And it's so hard to do, because especially in this day and age, it's probably even harder than the sort of cusp of the internet. But I'd say to that person, like, stand with it in conviction, because those stories are just, people actually want to hear from all parts of different worlds and different classes. That's what the right people want to hear that. But I believe it's what makes you a better creative or like actor is because you've experienced it more, like, or even like a politician, like if you're not like living a real existence with people who have varied life experience, then how can you represent? How can you represent that? How can you pretend to like to speak on behalf of that? Yeah, because I had it with Oldham. Like Oldham is a super working class town, but I would dream of getting out so much so that I never enjoyed it. That's so and actually like it gave me so much. Like I celebrate, because I went to Oldham Theatre Workshop, which is youth theatre, which is where loads of fucking amazing people have come from. And there's people always say that it was like something in the water in Oldham, but I think it was drive, and I think it was people wanting more than what they felt like the town could offer them, or stuff like that. However, ironically, it was what the council in that town were funding, which was Oldham Theatre Workshop, and what the people in that community were 100% creating in equipping children with tools and a voice to create something amazing within themselves that has enabled these people to go on and be really successful. Completely. And it took me
it took COVID actually, and me going home for like what I thought was 2 weeks, which ended up being 3 months with my mum and dad.
Wow.
Love you guys.
Who I adore as well.
Yeah,
who I met.
but being like plopped back into home, which I definitely didn't want to be there,
Yeah.
but actually like stopping and being like, wow, like, and I explored my area for the first time in a way that I never had.
With different eyes.
With different eyes, and I was like, God, it's actually, there's so much beauty here, and there's so much kindness, and there's so much integrity.
Yeah.
With the people and what they stand for, and like the community and all of that sort of stuff. So I'm so proud to come from there now.
Yeah.
But when you're young, I just think you want to get out and you want more.
Completely. And I think is a narrative that's created, isn't it? That probably, I mean, we chatted about that with, I wrote There Is More to Life Than South of Milton Keynes, because ultimately there is, but unfortunately we've fed a narrative, and the media's narrative is London-centric and Southern-centric, a lot of it. I think you forget in those moments, I always used to say, if it wasn't for Warrington, I'd have no imagination, right? Yeah. But ultimately, I go back there now, and obviously I go back to Liverpool all the time, and within these towns and cities, there, as you say, are stories and communities and just real character that, first of all, isn't being explored, and I don't think, if things continue, are being given the love and attention. You only have to talk about Oldham Theatre, that these such like staples to communities, they're not given the love and attention that they should have. But within it, you get like an energy from a person that comes from there that, as you say, has a drive that eventually, hopefully, will go full circle and wants to tell stories about where they're from.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
Amazing.
Love that. Okay, we're now at the point of a shit shot. So that is a photo that, to the outside eye, it looked like you had your shit together, but at the actual time, you definitely didn't.
Seeing as we're both Outlander, right?
Yes.
And this is actually the moment we probably should have chatted and said hello, but we didn't. We didn't.
At the premiere?
At that premiere.
Oh my God.
So I'd told...
We're like ships in the night there.
We were like ships in the night.
Yeah.
I was told... So usually I get a big heads up about, it's quite an ordeal going on. And also I...
An
ordeal, a big thing going on on the South Bank and blah, blah, blah. And I'd usually get prepped for that. And usually, hopefully my agent's not listening to this. But there was none of that.
Oh my God.
And I told my mate Wadge to come with me. It's just really low key, right? Just come down. I think...
Have a few bevs.
We're, no crisps on the table. Probably a few canopies. And I'd been really busy with work anyway.
Yeah.
And I'd finished some promotion for something else, went home, stuck on like a denim jacket and a roll neck, and I thought, but I look good, don't I? But Wadge's like, you look great, you mate.
Smart cash,
it's like your eyes still look fantastic in your photo shoot, so you'll be sorted. Nice car picks us up, and then literally just thrust onto that carpet, which was mad. And we've done Outlander events, and we know there's always going to be an Outlander family there, but it would seem to be just.
I think it was because they were launching Stars Play. Yeah. So it was like the flagship.
I didn't get that memo.
Well, I found out afterwards. So we're in a similar boat.
Yeah. So the photo I'll share with you is of me on the red carpet, and I can see just because my mate Wadge is literally standing with an umbrella. Like in a polo neck with Arsenal written on or something like that, and he's literally looking at me, and the fans are always lovely, and I come back just for a small little bit in that. Yeah. I was just like, I just wanted to see some familiar faces and say hello to everybody, and then all of a sudden I'm talking to Edith Bowman about and but again, I think we're lucky that I guess we've had maybe practice within the conventions and. Talking about Outlander a lot, but again, I managed in some way to potentially, we're going to go back to the bullshit myself the way through it and feel like I maybe belong there in some way.
Yeah.
But
and low key is cool, to be fair.
Low key.
Don't give a shit. Like,
No.
sorry, just roll into my next premiere.
I think one of the photographers was like, he's wearing a denim jacket. I was like, oh, thanks for telling everybody.
As if they couldn't see.
You couldn't get yourself a suit jacket for tonight, Andrew. I was like, yeah. Anyway, so that was a big moment where, I mean, not a big moment, but it was a moment where I just look back and go, I mean, there's some earlier shots as well of headshots where obviously you see the fear in the eye, but that is a recent one where I was just like, wow, that was interesting. And also with me chatting to you, I was like, well, actually it's the first time where I was like, right, I think we need to actually say hello to each other now. So I think that's when we said hello to each other shortly after that.
And then bumped into each other like 3 times.
Bloody hell, yeah.
We must get that coffee. Well, we're finally doing it.
You kept saying that. It just happens to be in your house and recorded. This is our first cup of tea, guys, ever together.
Well, Andrew Gower.
Yes.
Have you got your shit together?
Yes.
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 Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. I've got my shit together by understanding that it's not always going to be together.
Mm-hmm. And being at peace with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you know, that's my parting gift is that, and sometimes when you think you've got your shit together, you haven't.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you an extra question.
Go on then.
Have you got your bullshit together?
That I need a briefcase and a pack of tissues, and then I'll be there.
Okay.
But yeah, I've got plenty of ties and suits.
Yeah. In that wardrobe.
In that wardrobe. I've got a wardrobe with plenty of ties and suits and a denim jacket covered in sweat from the Outlander premiere.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, mate. Thank you so much.
Thank you.